Assalamu alaikum and very good morning, students. I'm Dr. Nuzhat Sharmin Ulmi, Assistant Professor of Obstetrics and Gynecology, Jalalabad Raghib Rabi Medical College and Hospital. We are passing through a critical situation due to COVID-19 pandemic. And inshallah, I hope you all are okay at your home and staying safely. So let's start. Today I am going to discuss about fetal growth restriction, which is commonly known as intrauterine growth restriction. In broad heading, chronic placental insufficiency. As we all know that fetal growth is very much important during the pregnancy period for a healthy outcome. In case of fetal growth restriction, these babies cannot gain their proper weight according to gestational age and ultimately leads to develop some grave complications. So what is the definition? Fetal growth restriction is said to be present in those babies whose birth weight is below the 10th centiles of the average for the gestational age. So in this definition, two things are important. One is their birth weight, which is below the 10th centiles, and according to their gestational age. So according to gestational age, their birth weight will be below the 10th centiles. And these babies are called intrauterine growth restricted babies. So this IUGR can occur in case of preterm baby, term baby, and also in case of postterm baby. It can occur in all conditions, not only the postterm, it can occur in preterm, term, and also in the postterm. So what's about the incidence of IUGR? In developed countries, it is about 2 to 8%. And in between them, term babies may develop 5% cases growth restriction. And in case of postterm babies, it is a little bit more, that is about 15% postterm babies may develop fetal growth restriction. This is the growth chart where the weight are given in gram, that is estimated fetal weight in grams, and the gestational ages. And what did we say in the definition? That these babies has growth below this 10th centile according to their gestational age. Okay? Now come to the types of IUGR. What are the types of IUGR? There are two types. One is SGA, that means small for gestational age, and another is pathological or true IUGR. So what are the criteria of gestational small for gestational age babies? They are constitutionally small but anatomically normal. Birth weight is less than 10th percentile for their gestational age. As we told, that birth weight is less than 10th percentile for their gestational age. They grow parallel to the lower centile throughout the pregnancy. They have no increased obstetrics or neonatal risk. That means these babies may have good prognosis. They are actually constitutionally small. They grow parallel to the lower centile throughout the pregnancy, but they have no increased obstetrics or neonatal risk. Number second, that is the actual IUGR, which is pathological or true intrauterine growth restriction. They are depending upon the relative size of their head, abdomen, and femur length. Okay, so the fetus is again subdivided into two types. That is the symmetrical intrauterine growth restriction and asymmetrical intrauterine growth restriction. So the pathological one is again divided into two types. One is symmetrical IUGR, another is asymmetrical IUGR. So let's see the differences. What are the differences between symmetrical and asymmetrical growth restricted fetuses? Symmetrical IUGR, also we known as early onset IUGR, and it constitutes about 20%. And asymmetrical IUGR, also known as late onset IUGR, it constitutes about 80%. So which one is common? That is asymmetrical IUGR. Okay. Number one, the symmetrical IUGR babies are uniformly small. But in case of asymmetrical IUGR, this baby's head is larger than the abdomen. Okay, these babies are totally uniformly small and their head is larger than abdomen. Now come to number second point, that is ponderal index. What is ponderal index? When we going to divide their birth weight of the baby by crown heel length, then we find the ponderal index. This index is normal in case of symmetrical IUGR baby, but it is low in case of asymmetrical IUGR. Now come to the ratios. These are actually the sonographic predictive values, that is head circumference. HC means head circumference and abdominal circumference ratio. And there is another ratio, that is the femoral length and the abdominal circumference ratio. These ratios are normal in case of symmetrical IUGR, but they both become elevated in case of asymmetrical IUGR. Now come to the etiology. So what are the causes? The symmetrical IUGR occur due to some genetic diseases or infection, which is solely intrinsic to fetus, that is the fetal cause. And the asymmetrical IUGR occurs, the main cause is chronic placental insufficiency. Actually, this is a broad heading, and there are some conditions which will be associated with developing of asymmetrical IUGR, which will be discussed later. That is the extrinsic to fetus. So what we said the cause of symmetrical IUGR is actually intrinsic to fetus. That is the solely fetal cause, and these are extrinsic to fetus. Number fifth point, total cell number, which is less, and cell size is normal in case of symmetrical IUGR. But the cell number become normal and cell size is smaller in case of asymmetrical IUGR. Now come to the important point, that is the neonatal course. Neonatal course is complicated with poor prognosis in case of symmetrical IUGR. In symmetrical IUGR, neonatal course is complicated with poor prognosis. That is bad. And in case of asymmetrical IUGR, usually uncomplicated, having good prognosis. So we commonly face the asymmetrical IUGR. Now come to the causes of IUGR. We can divide the causes into some headings. That is, there are some maternal cause, some fetal cause, some placental cause, and there are some unknown cause. At first, I'm going to tell about the maternal causes. Number one, constitutionally small women. which may be associated with some maternal racial and genetic background. So there are some constitutional small women may carry the small babies. That is the small for gestational age babies. These babies are actually have good prognosis. Number second, maternal nutritional deficiency before and during pregnancy. And this is very important for our perspective because in our country, most of our mother enter into pregnancy with nutritional deficiency, and during pregnancy they have malnutrition, which ultimately may cause or leads to development of intrauterine growth restriction of the baby, which is very important cause. Number 3, maternal diseases. There are some maternal diseases which ultimately leads to develop IUGR, that is anemia. Number second, hypertension. Suppose the mother has chronic hypertension, it may causes chronic placental insufficiency and ultimately may leads to IUGR. As for example, also there are some diseases, that is the thrombotic diseases. If the mother have any chronic renal disease, any collagen vascular disease, and heart disease. These diseases are important. You should be asked in your viva, then what maternal conditions are associated for leading IUGR. In that cases, you have to say these causes. Okay. Number 4, toxins. That is, if the mother is habitual to taking alcohol or any smoking habit or taking cocaine, heroin or drugs, ultimately may leads to develop IUGR baby. Now come to the fetal cause. Number 1, structural anomalies. The fetus may have the cardiovascular defects or may have some renal defect or other defect. Chromosomal abnormality, which constitutes about 8 to 12%. The commons are trisomies 13, 18, and 21, and also may have Turner syndrome. Some infections, that is the torch agent, which constitutes toxoplasmosis, rubella, cytomegalovirus, and herpes simplex virus, and may have malaria and multiple pregnancy. As we told in the chart, that the cause of symmetrical IUGR, that is the genetic diseases and the infection. This may lead to development of symmetrical intrauterine growth restricted babies. Now come to the placental cause. It is also very important. Already I told that chronic placental insufficiency is the leading cause for developing IUGR. It may occur due to some placental cause, that is the placenta previa, placental abruption, circumvallate placenta, placental infarction, and mosaicism. And in broad heading, 40% causes are unknown, totally unknown. So this is all about the causes of IUGR. Now come to the management of IUGR. Obviously, this is a broad heading, management. Within the management, there are, at first we need to diagnose, then have to do some investigations, and then we will going to give her treatment. So first one is diagnosis. How can we diagnose IUGR? We can diagnose IUGR by some clinical method and some biophysical methods. Clinical method. We can do clinical palpation of uterus by palpating her fundal height, by assessing the Likert volume and the fetal masses. But this is less sensitive parameter. Why this is less sensitive parameter? Because in case of some obese patient, maybe you cannot palpate properly the fundal height, may not assess the Likert volume, so it is actually not so much sensitive. Number second, that is the symphysial fundal height, which is a fairly sensitive parameter, about 30 to 80% cases. Measurement in centimeters. closely correlated with the gestational age after 24 weeks. A lag of 3 centimeter or more suggests growth restriction, and serial measurement is important. So what does it mean? I think you all know how to measure the symphysia fundal height. We need a measuring tape, and from above the symphysis pubis up to the height of the fundus of the uterus, we can measure it with a measuring tape in centimeters. But it is significant only after 24 weeks of gestation. Before 24 weeks, it is not significant. And if we find a 3 centimeter differences in between the gestational age and the symphysia fundal height, then we have to suspect that maybe IUGR is developing. But only one palpation, one measurement of symphysia fundal height, you cannot say that this is IUGR. That's why you need serial measurement, which is very important. So let's, for example, a patient came to you for her antenatal checkup. May come at her 32 weeks of gestation. So when you are going to measuring her symphysia fundal height, you are finding that her height is only 28 centimeter, but her gestational period is 32 centimeter. That means what? There is a bit of difference of 4 centimeter in between the symphysia fundal height and the gestational period. In that cases, you may have to think that maybe IUGR is going to develop and you need further follow-up of the patient to diagnose. I think you understand. Now come to the third point, which is also very important, that is the maternal weight gain, which will be stationary or at a times falling during the second half of pregnancy. That means what? If a patient in your follow-up during her antenatal checkup, you should check her weight charts. If you are observing that her weight becomes stationary or it may be falling during the second half of the pregnancy, in that time, you may suggest that IUGR will be developing or IUGR is going to develop. It is an important point, that is the maternal weight gain. Okay. And another thing, clinically, we can measure the abdominal girth, which is showing stationary or falling values. So these are the clinical ways that we can diagnose the IUGR. What I told, at first the clinical palpation of uterus, it is actually not more sensitive. Number second, that is the symphysia fundal height, which is fairly sensitive parameter. Then the maternal weight gain and measuring the abdominal girth. Okay. So we did the clinical methods. Now have to confirm my diagnosis. How can I am going to confirm? By doing some investigations, that is the ultrasonography. Ultrasonography is extremely useful, not only to diagnose the growth restriction, but also to identify either the fetus is symmetrical or asymmetrical one. There are some sonographic predictive values that are commonly used. What are they? Number one, head circumference, abdominal circumference, their ratios, femoral length, amniotic fluid volume. It is very important in ultrasonography, and anatomical survey to exclude fetal anomalies. Is there any congenital anomaly present or not? Through ultrasonography, we can see all of these. But like only one ultrasonography, we cannot say this is IUGR. That's why we need to do ultrasonography 3 to 4 weeks interval. Okay. So through ultrasonography, we also can diagnose either it is symmetrical IUGR or asymmetrical IUGR. In case of symmetrical IUGR, the head circumference ratio and the abdominal circumference ratio is normal, but individually they both reduced. In asymmetrical IUGR, the ratio is elevated. Already I told it in the difference, and the head circumference become larger. Abdominal circumference is the single most sensitive parameter to detect IUGR. If you will be asked in Viva that to diagnose of the IUGR in ultrasonography, which parameter is more important? Then your answer will be abdominal circumference. Is the single most sensitive parameter to detect intrauterine growth restriction. Okay. And what's about the amniotic fluid? The amniotic fluid volume is usually decreased in late onset IUGR. Late onset means asymmetrical IUGR. Usually we find decreased in late onset IUGR. Another test we can do, that is, if facility available, we can do the Doppler velocimetry. Okay, Doppler velocimetry we can do in the following vessels. It is only done to see the severity of the intrauterine growth restriction or how much the fetus is jeopardized, if a need urgent termination or not. But in your level, you only have to know the name. This is the Doppler velocimetry we can do in the uterine artery, in the umbilical artery, in the middle cerebral artery, umbilical vein, and the ductus venosus. You only have to know the name and in which vessels we are going to do. If facility available, we can do this to see how much the fetus is affected or how much the fetus is jeopardized, and if the fetus needs urgent termination, by observing the results of the umbilical artery Doppler or middle cerebral artery Doppler, we will go for termination. Now come to the biochemical test. PEP-A, that is the pregnancy associated plasma protein A. This level is decreased in first trimester. Actually, this is a predictive value. It is a prediction for IUGR. If a lady with having some diseases like chronic hypertension and any thromboembolic diseases is come to you for follow-up in first trimester, you can do a PEP-A level. Or if she have any previous history of IUGR, in that cases you may do this PEP-A level to see the what's about the level. If it is decreased, you may predict that this lady may develop intrauterine growth restriction in her later half of pregnancy. So actually this is a prediction. Now come to the treatment. Okay. At first we will going to give some general treatment. Number 1, adequate bed rest in left lateral position. Why is in left lateral position? To improve the placental perfusion, to get more oxygenation, to prevent aortic compression. Number 2, balanced diet. Already we know that maybe the mother have malnutrition, so we'll have to give them balanced diet and extra 300 kilocalorie per day to correct malnutrition. Number 3, appropriate therapy for the associated complicating factors which likely to produce IUGR. Appropriate therapy for the associated complicating factor. That is, if the mother have any preeclampsia or any heart disease or any thromboembolic disease, we need to give the appropriate therapy according to the diseases, because these diseases may like to produce intrauterine growth restriction. Okay. If she has any habit, then avoidance of smoking, tobacco and alcohol, which also may lead IUGR. So need to avoid these bad habits. Number 5, hyperoxygenation at the rate of 2.5 liter per minute. But it is actually for the admitted patient. for short-term prolongation of pregnancy. We can give the oxygen therapy at the rate of 2.5 liter per minute. Number 6, low dose aspirin. This is important, which will be available in our country as 75 milligram. In patient, that is in selected patient, we are going to give the low dose aspirin who have hypertension, thromboembolic disease, preeclampsia, or previous history of IUGR. In that cases, we can give the low dose aspirin. Number 7, maternal hyperalimentation by amino acids. Maternal hyperalimentation by amino acids. And number 8, maternal circulatory volume expansion may be helpful in placental perfusion. These are the general treatment for IUGR. Now come to the obstetric management. In obstetric management, if there are some options, if the pregnancy is more than 37 weeks, that is the term pregnancy, we will go for termination of pregnancy. Because already term, no need to wait, we will go for termination. That is for delivery. Number B option, if the pregnancy is less than 37 weeks, in that case, you have to see which type of IUGR it is. Either it is uncomplicated or mild IUGR. In that cases, we can give the mother the general treatment and allow to continue till at least 37 weeks. If mother's condition is okay and the IUGR is uncomplicated and mild variety, we will try to continue the pregnancy at least up to 37 weeks. Okay? But if the IUGR is severe degree IUGR, in that cases, we have no option. We have to do the termination of the pregnancy. But if the gestational age is less than 34 weeks, we will going to give the mother antenatal corticosteroid therapy, that is the dexamethasone therapy, to accelerate pulmonary maturation of the baby. That is what? If the gestational age is less than 34 weeks, we are going to give the mother the antenatal corticosteroid for the lung maturation of the baby that may prevent some grave complication like respiratory distress syndrome. Okay? Then we will go for termination because already severe degree IUGR developed. So what are the methods of delivery? Obviously, vaginal delivery is preferable, and in some condition we can do cesarean section. We need to do cesarean section. In case of vaginal delivery, we need to do pervaginal examination to see the condition of the cervix. If cervix is favorable, then we can do low rupture of membrane and see the color of the liquor. If the liquor color is clear, then we will start the oxytocin drip to proceed normal delivery. But if the cervix is unfavorable, so we need to ripen the cervix. That's why we will have to give prostaglandin either in tablet form or in gel form to ripen the cervix. And then again same procedure, low rupture of membrane. Then we will observe the liquor color and if need start oxytocin drip. So color of the liquor is a guide for further management. Why? Because if the liquor color is meconium stained, then we will directly go for emergency cesarean section as the fetus is in distress. So this is very important. That is the color of the liquor. It is a guide for further management. Okay. I hope you understand. Now, cesarean section. When we will do cesarean section, there are some indication, that is when the risk of vaginal delivery is more. In that cases, we will not wait, go for CS section. Number second, unfavorable cervix. In spite of giving prostaglandin, cervix is not favors, ripens or become cervical dystocia may develop. In that cases, we can go for cesarean section. And in fetal acidemia. Fetal acidemia. How can we will diagnose fetal acidemia? By Doppler ultrasonography. Okay? Or fetal distress. In that cases, we directly go for cesarean section. So this is all about the treatment of IUGR. So after the birth of the baby, how can you well recognize it is an IUGR baby? There are some physical features of the baby. So this is the picture of the baby showing asymmetrical fetal growth restriction. Okay. So what are the criteria? Weight deficit at birth 600 gram below the minimum infantile standard. Length is unaffected. Actually, there will be no change in their length. Already we said head circumference is relatively larger. Head circumference is relatively larger than the abdomen in case of asymmetrical IUGR variety. The baby's skin show dry, wrinkled due to less subcutaneous fat, scaphoid-shaped abdomen. Maybe there is meconium stained vernix caseosa, or maybe found thin umbilical cord. Pinna of air has cartilaginous ridges. There may be the plantar creases are well defined. Plantar creases of the baby well defined. This all leads to give a look of the baby as a old man look. So this is important. Look of the IUGR baby. Old man look. Okay. But the baby is alert, active, and have normal cry. And the reflexes are normal. All the reflexes are normal, including the Moro reflex. So these are the picture of asymmetrical growth restricted baby. The skin dry, wrinkled skin, scaphoid shaped abdomen, and all this leads to the baby a look of old man, looking like old man look. Old man look. Okay. Now come to the complications. What are the complications? Already we told that if there is severity of the IUGR may have developed some complication which will be grave. That is, the complication may develop in antenatal period, may develop during intranatal period, and after birth. In antenatal period, the baby may develop chronic fetal distress, and a dangerous complication also may develop, that is intrauterine fetal death. Chronic fetal distress ultimately may lead to develop intrauterine fetal death. During the intranatal period, the baby may develop hypoxia, acidosis. After birth, immediately some complication develop, that is the asphyxia, bronchopulmonary dysplasia, and respiratory distress syndrome. So to prevent respiratory distress syndrome, we can give the antenatal corticosteroid to mother if lung maturation still not achieved. This baby may develop hypoglycemia, meconium aspiration syndrome, disseminated intravascular coagulation, hypothermia, pulmonary hemorrhage, polycythemia, anemia, thrombocytopenia, hyperviscosity thrombosis, intraventricular hemorrhage. Some electrolyte abnormalities also may develop, that is hypocalcemia, hyponatremia, hyperphosphatemia, hyperkalemia. Multi-organ failure. All this leads increased perinatal morbidity and mortality. Maybe some late complications, that is retarded neurological and cognitive function. Long-term complication. In adulthood, these babies may develop metabolic syndrome. The metabolic syndrome constitutes obesity, hypertension, diabetes mellitus, coronary artery disease. Renal vascular hypertension also may develop. Now come to actually there are fetal complications. Maternal complications does not cause any harm. Actually, fetal growth restriction does not cause any harm to mother. But the underlying disease like preeclampsia, heart disease, malnutrition may be life-threatening for mother. So, this is all about of IUGR. I'm almost done. So what we said for diagnosis, that is important. We clinically, we can do some methods to diagnose the IUGR, and in investigation, ultrasonography is most important. Okay. In your written question, you may find the management of the IUGR, but nowadays the question pattern is a bit different. You may find it as a scenario. That is, a lady, 30 years old, came to you at her 34 weeks of gestation with symphysia fundal height 30 centimeter. What will be the differential diagnosis? In that cases, you have to write the DDs, and obviously IUGR is one of them. You have to write some DDs. Number one, the mistaken date. It may be the mistaken date. Number two may be intrauterine fetal death. Number three may be intrauterine growth restriction. And number four, you can say oligohydramnions. These are the DDs, and IUGR is one of them. And then you can go for management. In management, already I told, at first you need to write the diagnosis clinically with some sign symptom or by clinical ways, and then some investigation and go for treatment. This all included within the management. So you are at home and you have more time, you need to utilize your time and have to do study. And this is all about the IUGR. If you have any question or anything, you can contact with me through messages. So stay home, stay safe. Thank you.